What if I told you that you were getting tricked into being an addict? Let me ask you this question. Every time you relapse, every time you go backwards, every time you do something you know that your spirit doesn't agree with, how does it make you feel? Now be honest, right? Be honest with yourself. Don't give me no bullshit. Be honest. When you eat that cookie, right? When you beat your meat, when you watch porn, when you go back to those old environments, it feels good, doesn't it? It feels good for that hot second. Because if it didn't, you wouldn't do it, right? Those drugs feel good, which is why you go backwards. So let me ask you this question. What if I gave you the key to unlock your own salvation? What if I gave you the key into realizing that your addiction is in your hands? It's not something that's above you. It's not something that's below you. It's right at your front door. I want to be real and transparent with you guys. Addiction is nothing but a neural pathway formed in the brain. Addiction is literally another form of a neurotransmitter. Because watch this. Every time that you relapse, you fall down a spiral, right? Typically people that are acknowledging an addiction are starting to build a form of a ritual and or system to combat the addiction. Not knowing that ultimately when these systems fail and this idea that you have formed about your addiction corrupts, you're going to go back into the same cycle, which is typically why addiction is very hard to break, because you're not realizing that your brain, right, your frontal lobe is addicted to a certain thing that you are doing, whether it may be a video game, whether it may be a certain food, a certain person, sex, whatever it may be, right? And the more that you do this thing, the harder that the neural pathway gets stronger. So it's harder to break it, which is why addiction is so hard to break. Typically, people talk about addiction from a one-dimensional standpoint, not realizing that addiction is literally your brain's makeup. Just like how we are creative as people, we want to do creative things. We have all of these thoughts in our head, not realizing that where do these things come from? Where do these dark thoughts come from? Because they aren't mine. Where are these wants coming from for these certain foods, right? For these certain appetites, right? For these certain wants. Like there's certain people that are doing certain things that they don't even know why they're doing. There's certain people that are watching porn and they can't even tell you why they're watching porn. You might be one of them watching this video. But I want to tell you that it's not you, bro. Your brain is becoming stronger than your capability, right? So the willpower that you're using is not enough, right? The strength that you're using is not enough, right? And ultimately, what does this lead you to? It leads you to source. It leads you to God. I want to be real transparent with you guys, bro. When I started this channel at 18 years old, I was going through a lot, bro. I was going through a lot. You know, I was at a state where I was finding myself. You know, I was going through a lot of different changes. You know, I'm looking at life from different perspectives. And I had a lot of bad habits. But what I had to realize is I can't fight this battle alone. And no matter how much you try, right, to build the correct system, to take the right actionable step, until you get in a relationship with the higher power, that you're acknowledging and realizing that this is bigger than your own capability, and that's not bad, that's when you can get your salvation. See, when you start realizing that everything that we do as human beings, we're being allowed to do. The Creator is allowing your creative ability to flow, right? Which is why we're extensions of the Creator, right? We get these thoughts, ideas to change the world right? A lot of us are interactivists, right? A lot of us are inspirations. A lot of us are, we are very multifaceted people, especially my melanated people. We're very, 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 very creative. But a lot of that is masked under trauma because we don't know how to articulate ourselves and verbally speak and bring these things to life. So we live in that trauma, right? And we mask the creativity with trauma, right? We don't want people to see that we're actually pretty fucking incredible, but we'd rather mask that with an addiction. We'll rather mask that with fitting into society, right? We'll rather mask that with letting someone else tell us how hard our, life is supposed to go. You only get one life. You came here to live this one life, right? No matter how many times you've been here, you're living this one life right now. So you have to realize, right? Every day you wake up, you get to make a decision, right? So heavy is the head that wears the crown. And in order to fully reach the kingdom of God, you have to realize that you in this current moment are making a decision for your betterment or your destruction. And a lot of times when you're dealing with addiction, it really just is that simple. So in order to rewire the neural pathways to break the addiction, you have to become someone, right, that isn't attracted to these things, right? You have to do the detoxing, right? You may have to get off of social media, put the phone down, right, for a couple hours, really grab a journal, write how you're thinking, brain dump, and when you do these things, get in a form of understanding about what you're going through, right? Because it's easy to run away from the things that you've been through. And it's easy to coincide with the things that you've been through as if they're the last things that you're going to go through. Because I promise you, right, when you choose this path of following Jesus Christ, it doesn't necessarily stop right there. It gets harder. It gets worser, but once again, no risk, no reward. And if you truly want to become somebody that you can be proud of, it doesn't necessarily mean a religion. It means you becoming somebody that when you look in the mirror, you're proud of, right? When you look in the mirror, you can recognize who you're looking at. When you look in the mirror, you're not running from what you're seeing. When you look in the mirror, you can actually appreciate life, right? No matter how many cars you have or how many clothes you have or how many women is at your disposal, right? Or what your bank account looks like right now. Like, what does your reality look like for you? Because you could have all of that and have nothing, and you could have none of that and have everything. So the reality that you're aligning with is either your survival or you stepping in to you finally thriving. And a lot of times, bro, it's just us making a decision. When we have so many things going on and we can't compartmentalize, bro. And I had to struggle with this a lot too. And I know a lot of people can resonate with this, bro. You want to put as much on God as possible so you can be navigated on how to compartmentalize, right? On how to actually build systems that work and not faulty things that will dissipate within 30 days or 60 to 90 days, right? You're building something with a strong foundation because it has faith behind it, right? And that was the hardest thing for me, bro, because, as a man, you have pride, bro. I don't even want to ask God for too much. Literally, like, I don't even want to ask the creator for too much because it's like you've done enough, more than enough, right? So for the people that's watching this video, bro, put the burden on God, right? Like, put your weaknesses, your strengths, your ideas, right? Your lowest moments, put that on God, bro. Talk to him. Like, really get in there and get a relationship on, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? And look at it as if it's something that you don't have to be judged by, right? Like, look at it as something that is open-minded. Look at it as something that's you just being you, right? Like, I think a lot of us are so in our head that we want to tell people things a certain way, right? We want to look at things from a certain perspective. When it comes to God, bro, God knows your heart. And that's the main thing that I had to overcome, bro, stepping into real faith, was knowing that, bro, God knows your heart, bro. Like, God knows you more than you know yourself. So you don't have to put on this mask, right? And look at life from a certain perspective as if that's what it wants you to be. You can be whoever you want to be. And the most authentic version of that person is going to always either get the most hate or get the most genuine appreciation, right? You don't look for love from the world. You look for the deep appreciation from people that resonate with you. The resonance of people, right, that can respect you as you respect them. Because when you look for love from the world, that's when you start playing into another game. That's when you start serving somebody else. And this is spoken on, right? Because you can't seek love from the world, right? You have to realize that in this world that we're living in, we're all operating and serving someone. We're serving someone and something, right? And when you can realize that, that's when you start to actually make the progress you're trying to make. Whether if it's with your addiction, with your relationship with yourself, your family, right? With your relationship with your kids, you know, your business, your career, whatever it may be, right? When you can realize that you're either operating out of purpose or you're operating out of pleasure. And when you can be honest with yourself to realize which one of these things am I operating out of, because it's not a bad thing, bro. Like, because you're self-aware enough to realize what the fuck you're doing. You just got to be able to distinguish the two. So when you can distinguish what two areas and ballparks you're playing out of, am I operating out of purpose, right? Am I on my shit? Am I focused, right? That doesn't mean that I'm perfect, right? But am I getting things done? Am I giving myself grace, right? Or am I operating out of pleasure, or I'm distracted, right? I'm hanging around people that don't really love me, appreciate me, or give a fuck about me, right? I'm in environments that don't serve me, right? I'm eating shit I know that's destroying me, right? I'm in my head about things that I know aren't coherent to growth or correlative to anything that I want in my near future, right? That's operating out of pleasure, because that's a leisure, right? But when you operating out of purpose, you ain't got time for that. You ain't got time for that shit. It's time to get it done. It's time to handle that business. You know what I'm saying? So you got to realize, bro, when you give yourself grace, right? And when you bring these things to the light instead of living in the dark, that's when you can get the salvation, right? That's when you truly can get saved. And that's when you truly can build that relationship, bro. Because once again, we weren't put on this earth to be perfect, right? No matter what religion, no matter what, you know, situation you have going on or relate, like whatever you have in your inner world, bro, like the first step to anything, bro, is authenticity. And authenticity will lead you to not only a great life, you know what I'm saying, a great connection with yourself and God, a great marriage, you know, just a great foundation and structure overall, right? Because you're living a life of truth. You're not living a lie. So as soon as you stop living the lie that the world has programmed you to be in, right? Which is, don't be authentic. Try to be as perfect as possible for the world to see you, right? Don't cry, right? Don't smile, you know. Make sure everything is picture perfect, the lighting's good, all of this bullshit, right? But you're truly dying inside. Instead of dying a little bit so that your new version of yourself can be born, right? Because sometimes the old you has to go regardless, right? And then you start thinking of new ideas, right? On how you can grow that business. You start thinking of new ideas of how to be more expansive. You're starting to think of new ideas and you're starting to get these downloads from the source because you're now being your authentic version and you're not operating out of the version that's just trying to survive. So once again, bro, for everybody who watched this video, everybody that resonated with this video, I want you to know one thing before I go. God is never going to be able to truly use you if you are not operating out of the most authentic version of yourself. And I'll say this again. That does not mean you have to be perfect. That does not mean that every day has to be a successful day, right? One W in a day is a good day, right? You waking up and opening your eyes and getting a 30-minute workout in is a W to me. You waking up and making some money is a W to me, right? You waking up and you being in your head and you're still being able to navigate school, work, career, etc., 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 and being able to get it done, even if you almost lost your mind, you still got it done. That's a W, my nigga. So you have to have some grace, not only for yourself, but for the future version of yourself that you're preparing to be. And don't become so consumed with expectations of yourself, of the world, of your family, of everything, and start living for you in the now. The now, right now, right now. No matter how it look, no matter how it feel, because if it feel good to be you, then be you. If it feel good to say, I love you, but I'm gonna pick me right now, do that too. If it feel good to say, fuck up, because I gotta focus on me right now, hey, do that shit too. No cap. But at the end of the day, you gotta be your authentic self, my nigga. You gotta be you, bro. Because nobody can be as swaggy, can be as confident, and can authentically just be you better than you, my nigga. Which is why you were chosen to be you. You know what I'm saying? I love y'all. Y'all already know what time it is. And I'm out, man. I'm gone.